Hello everyone, I'm Timothy Ong and I'm joining this conference from Brunei, Darussalam. My good friend Fatin Arifin, the chair of this year's ASEAN Young Entrepreneurs Council, has kindly invited me to deliver a keynote address at the beginning of this session. Instead of delivering a formal address, I propose to share some thoughts with you on how we should be preparing for what I call the next normal. Now, what is the next normal? By the next normal, I mean the way we are going to live, work, and do business. In short, the new rules which will govern life, the way we work, and the way we compete in this next phase, which is both post-pandemic and yet shaped by the pandemic. Will things be entirely different? Will we go back to where we were before? What will be the lasting impact of the pandemic? What will be its long-term implications? There will be many opinions, particularly throughout ASEAN, which is a very diverse region, and where our experiences of COVID-19, depending on where you are, have been very different. But one thing is for sure. The one big lesson we have learned from COVID-19 is that the future rarely unfolds according to plan. So here are my three thoughts. Firstly, adaptability is going to be critical. The ability to be agile, adapt, and innovate will be the key to success in the next normal. Like many businesses, COVID-19 gave my business, Asia Inc. Forum, a masterclass in the need to adapt or die. We are in the meeting business. Our business is to bring different people from different backgrounds, often from different parts of the world, to meet together, to exchange views, sometimes to argue, sometimes to debate, but always hopefully to find common ground. Over the years, we have developed a very successful template based on social proximity. Social proximity is the opposite of social distancing. Social proximity is based on the idea that human beings are social creatures, that they like to be together in close proximity, that they interact best when they are close to each other, that they like to shake hands, exchange name cards, get to know each other in person. Our world was turned upside down by COVID-19. Social proximity was thrown out of the window and replaced by social distancing. We were faced with the stark choice of relearning what we knew, of adapting and innovating, learning about the new technologies for virtual meetings and virtual conferencing, or if not, go out of business. And adapt we did. During COVID-19, we organized or helped to organize 3 international virtual conferences and 1 hybrid forum. In thinking about the next normal, our view is that things will not go back entirely to where they were before, nor will things be entirely virtual as they are now. We think that meetings and conferences in future will be mostly in person, but also partly virtual. That in-person dimension and the virtual dimension will complement each other in some kind of a new blended or hybrid template. But who knows? The one thing we have learned, to repeat myself, from COVID-19 is that the future doesn't unfold neatly and according to plan. The one thing that we do know is that to stay ahead, we need to be agile, we need to adapt relentlessly, and we need to innovate. So that is my first thought for preparing for the next normal. My second thought is that in preparing for the next normal, we need to take care of the vulnerable, the poor, the marginalized in our communities. And why do I say this? I believe one of the central lessons of COVID-19 is that a society is as resilient as its weakest link. Consider the case of Singapore, which is the most successful, the wealthiest, and best developed of all the ASEAN countries. In Singapore, foreign workers in crowded dormitories became a source of community infection. If you look throughout the world, you will see that the societies which are most disparate and unequal are also the societies which are the most vulnerable. So in thinking about the next normal, we have to be mindful of the fact that we need to look after the vulnerable, the marginalized, the poor, not just because it is the right thing to do, but because it is the necessary thing to do if we are to build resilient futures for ourselves. So those are my 2 thoughts. Be agile, be adaptable. My second thought, take care of the vulnerable in order to build a resilient future. Let me get now to my third thought, which is to be positive. Now, it may seem strange to talk about thinking positively when we have just experienced the biggest crisis of our lifetimes, which is still continuing in many of our communities. COVID-19 threatened lives and livelihoods throughout our region and throughout our world. Some of us suffered more than others, but there is no doubt that it was and remains a threat to us physically, emotionally in some cases, and economically. And yet, I believe as we think of the next normal, we must think positively. We must remind ourselves that nearly all crises will come to an end, that crisis will give way to recovery, and recovery will give way to opportunity. At the very least, recovery and crisis presents us with the opportunity to rethink our priorities, to reimagine our future and our businesses, and to reinvent ourselves where reinvention is required. I will take the opportunity arising from what I have learned from COVID-19 to rethink my life, to reimagine my business, and to reinvent my business model or models, because I'm in different businesses, wherever the opportunity presents itself. This, I think, is the main reason to think positively, that crisis presents us with an opportunity for fresh beginnings. I will be seizing this opportunity, and I hope that you will have the opportunity to do the same. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the very best as you take part in the discussion that will follow this. Thank you very much.